Welcome to the place where you, the individual atheist, can converse with me, the individual Christian. I refuse to debate. I refuse to try to prove you wrong, ignorant, and immoral. And the assumption is that you will not do the same to me. Otherwise, I just won't respond to you in the comments, because that's not what this channel is about. I do not want to debate. I want to focus on what we can agree on. I received this comment, I think, from Blaster Master. He watches some of my other videos too that aren't about atheist stuff. And I took notes on our conversation just so I could present it for this video. And he had asked me kind of in a counter question. He said, because I made a video saying this, look, former atheists exist, right? There are Christians who are former atheists. No one can deny that that's a real thing. And I said, well, why is that? How is that? How, because my whole thing is, I say, one of the things that defines a Christian as opposed to an atheist is not simply that you believe in God, but that you choose to believe. You make a decision. You choose to give your life to Christ. You choose to believe. But I've yet to really hear an atheist agree with me on that. Atheist individually keeps telling me it's impossible to choose to believe. If it were real, I wouldn't have to believe because I would know it was real. And I say, then that's not believing. Believing is not, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, so we're talking about that, making that video, and I said, so why is it though that former atheists exist and they're now Christians? Were they just weak atheists? How is it? What did they hear? What did they perceive from the conversion process that all the other atheists are not in? As if there were this magical missing link. Oh, that's why I wasn't a Christian before, but now that I understand that, well, now I'm a Christian. Well, individual atheists do experience that. The majority do not. Why is it certain atheists that end up believing? So the person commenting was asking the opposite. Asking me, okay, Nick, well, let's look at the opposite from your perspective. Why are there many atheists today who used to be Christian? Which I would actually say there's a good chance the majority of you, even the slight majority of you, used to be Christian. You grew up in a Christian setting. Even if you were forced into it and you never really believed, that's how you grew up. So by default, you were a Christian who became an atheist. I think that's safe terminology. I can say that without getting in trouble, right? Okay, yeah. So why is it that there are so many former Christians that are now atheists? What's their deal? Are they weak Christians? I feel this is a very easy answer, and I would simply say, ultimately by default, if you're looking for a yes or no, I'd agree with that. I'd say yes, their faith was weak. I would say, to me, it's that simple. Even when we look at the parable that Jesus talked about, how the seeds, falling on different types of soil, and sometimes it took root, sometimes it didn't. That makes sense to me. Certain people are strong in the faith, others are not. And actually, I think probably where I am, if anything, worst case scenario, I think it was in the book of James where it talks about, Lord, help my unbelief. It's not that I don't believe so much as a matter of, there's just certain things I'm never going to understand about Christianity, and no one ever really will be able to. For me, I think my lifelong challenge, I'd love to overcome this, but I think this is just where I am with my faith. And I think this proves my faith is real because I don't understand yet I still believe. But the thing I personally struggle with is I never wanted free will. I never wanted human beings to have free will. I would rather God just created us all and we could be his creation. We could worship God and have no desire to sin, to hurt each other, to be self-serving. Just be good creation of his and the world not fall apart, which is what the Bible teaches is exactly what happened. And it only took the first two people he created for that to happen. I would rather the story not be that way. And this planet Earth that he created would be the heaven that it was meant to be before the fall of man. That's what I would want. I think the world is so dark of a place, and so many people are born into lives that's just automatic. It's like hell on earth instead of heaven on earth, and like that's their life. And they're lucky to get out of that trap. So, like for example, stories like this. The mom had the kid when they were 17 years old. Then that kid has their kid when they're 16-year-old. Then the teen mom thing repeats, and they remain in poverty. And then finally you hear, wait, it took 5 generations, but finally this one's in college. They got a good job. What? Like you see economically they rise. You can see that even socially, they get to a better place, because I think we could all agree in the human experience, if you got this one shot, it's better to not be living in poverty if you can get out of it. I think the fact that poverty exists really bothers me, and I think it bothers Jesus. That's what I believe. The Bible is full of Jesus talking about there will always be poor among you. It's up to you to take care of them and love your neighbor as yourself. So for me, I wish there wasn't free will and that we couldn't make mistakes. That we could just be already on heaven on earth and that be it. That's something I struggle with. That's something I struggle with in my belief. Now, yet I still believe. It doesn't maybe I need to be an atheist now because I can't figure this one thing out. So what I would say, what I just shared with you, maybe that reinforces that my faith is strong, because I can recognize things I struggle with in my beliefs, but it doesn't keep me from believing. If anything, it only makes me believe that much more and search that much harder to try to understand certain things we just can't understand. Dierks Bentley has a song, I think it's called Here on Earth, the country singer, yes. And he has a song about this, saying that he's talking about a school shooting and just trying to make sense of that. And in the song, he's saying, ultimately, I've come to the point where I recognize that there are some things on earth I'm never going to get an answer to. And even if I did, it wouldn't change anything. And I think that's very important to know. I've got questions about my faith. I've got questions that can't be answered in this life about it. I do. But even if I understood those things better, it wouldn't change the fact that I'm a Christian and I still believe. It would only reinforce that, if anything. So I think, to answer the question, I think, yeah, it's a matter of certain people don't have much faith to begin with, and other people maybe start out with the same question, like, is this really real? But then over time, this person has a stronger faith and this person doesn't. And the one who doesn't, like, okay, yeah, I guess there is no God after all. And that's what they believe. And almost to a follow-up to this, I'd say, is atheism a threat to Christianity? And that could almost be its own video, but I really think it's important to put it in this one. And I want to answer that. I think absolutely not. I do not think that atheism is a threat to Christianity. I don't think that there's this concept of atheism or atheists recruiting Christians and Christians no longer believe. I think in reality, certain people that are somewhat in the realm of the Christian faith, they don't have much faith to begin with. So it makes sense that, well, they're atheists now, or they're agnostic now, or whatever. It's like they just barely had their foot in this religion thing, this Christianity thing. And after they thought about it, well, it's not for me. And I think a lot of American Christians, a lot of American atheists are in that situation. Once they had their own space, especially as an adult, they realized, I don't actually believe in this thing. My faith was never real, or my faith was so weak. I think that's what it is. I don't see atheists as a threat. I think it goes back to another video I made, though. Is believing in God the default? Because I say the default is harder. I think it's harder to believe in God. I think it's harder to have faith. I think it's harder to be a Christian and have that faith system than it is just to be an atheist. Because we can't prove Christianity to be real at this current time. We can't prove that. So what maybe even make more sense is to be an atheist. It's almost like I, the Christian, I'm saying, hey, it's better to be atheist. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I think it's harder and more difficult to be a Christian. And so, yeah, this concept of weak faith versus strong faith, by default, I think some people never really struggle with having faith in God, in Christianity, in the Bible, and all these things. I think certain people always do. And then I think there's certain people like me who have been a Christian most of my entire life. And it's like the older I get, the more certain things bother me about it that I don't understand that didn't used to bother me. And like I said, the whole concept of free will is the thing that keeps tripping me up on that. The world has had to become such a horrible place because of the fall of man and original sin and all that. It's like, I wish God's plan was that we didn't have free will, because then we wouldn't have to live in a world that's so dark. But ultimately, the best sense I can make of it is that For those of us who choose to believe in God, who have that faith, that are able to choose to believe, because remember, believing is not seeing. Believing is having faith in something you will never get tangible evidence that you can say, oh, here's Jesus, right? To me, that's ultimately fundamentally what we're looking at. I think we have more to talk about this, but I want to hear from you. Why don't you go ahead and leave a comment right here.